How do you feel that when you started the industry?
Are still there. At the end of the day, we're trying to provide services.
9/11, then the COVID pandemic. So, how did this affect your industry?
Take our challenges. The difference between COVID and say something like volcanic ash.
Fast forward to 2024. Edinburgh Airport has shown impressive post-pandemic growth. So what were the key strategies?
Then the other thing was, as we were doing that, was not to cut too much muscle.
The initiative, sustainable initiative Edinburgh Airport is taking to its growth as well as to maintain the sustainability.
I understand that this is probably the most pressing issue in our sector. We need to demonstrate that we've got.
So the one thing about which people were not very happy about last year, thousands of people were stranded without their luggage. Airport implemented that no liquid checks. So
12 or 15 minutes, we'll get to the 100.
So imagine you're on a direct flight between India and Scotland. The first flight was to Delhi, Mumbai, Scotland. So do you know any Indian movie or actor? Shahrukh Khan was one of the doctor.
Namaste and welcome to Global Desi Podcast. To celebrate the incredible journey of the 30 million global Indians settled outside India, we're here to shine a light on the extraordinary stories of people from all walks of life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Global Desi Podcast, GDP with PD. Today we have got a distinguished guest with us, Dewar, the Chief Executive of Edinburgh Airport. Thank you, Gordon, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Gordon, before we dive into detail, could you please just run away with your incredible journey which has led you to be the Chief Executive of Edinburgh Airport? Can you run through your early life, your career, and how did you landed in your job as a CEO for Edinburgh Airport?
Well, the short version is I was born 4 miles from the airport. So some may say I've never got very far, but I have gone away, come back a few times in that time. So I was at school locally in Edinburgh, went to university down in London. Worked in there for a few years in transport consultancy. So my career has always been transport, actually always been public transport as well. So having done consultancy for quite a few years with a really wide mix of clients, from bus companies to the Scottish Prison Service, advising how to move prisoners around. Then joined my first operational role with First Group, who were the biggest bus company. Based in Aberdeen, largest public transport company in the world at the time. And spent quite a few years with them, did multiple different jobs, everything from tech projects like smart card implementations to guided bus systems, you name it. So it was really, really interesting job. I then got my first ever operational leadership role running the bus company for First Group round Edinburgh. That was way back in 2001 now, so that's coming back. And then a few bit more time in rail before joining airports at Glasgow Airport actually in 2007 when they were all owned by BAE, so Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen and others like Heathrow were all in the same group. Did a couple of years in Glasgow, a couple of years at Edinburgh. Had 2 years also in the Middle East, in Bahrain Airport.
Which I would say?
Bahrain.
Bahrain.
Yeah, they were trying to create a new commercial company to run the airport, which was great fun. But then when the opportunity came back to run Edinburgh under the current ownership, where Edinburgh's a standalone business, it was too good a chance for an Edinburgh boy to miss. So I'm back in.
So how do you see then when you started the industry now, what changes the technology has brought and how do you feel now? Because when you started it was quite different than
I think there's also a huge amount of technological change, everything from looking at hydrogen, looking at electric power and so on and so forth. But I think the fundamentals are still there. At the end of the day, we're trying to provide services that people want to use and at affordable prices and at quality they want. And that's true whether you're running a bus company or an airport, to be honest. I mean, what has changed sometimes is the regulatory structures and some of the sort of political approach to these things. But on the whole, I think we're here to give services to people that want them in a way that they are happy to pay for, and do what they need to do. We're just here as an enabler. Nobody wants to travel for the sake of it, or very few do. Most people have a purpose, and we're about enabling that purpose.
Right. And there's some significant events which happened while you were in the office. For example, the 9/11, then the COVID pandemic. So how did this affect your industry?
I mean, so different. So many things happened. There was also Glasgow. We had the first terrorist incident as well. So, I mean, effectively, you have to sort of face into the particular challenges. And, the difference between COVID and, say, something like volcanic ash is the longevity. It's how long it lasted, and therefore you had to sort of behave very differently in protecting the long-term interests of the business, while still trying to do the best you can for those that work in the business and also your long-term customers. So you've really got to sort of take that step back on every occasion, try and give yourself the space to understand what is the nature of the challenge coming at you, what needs to be done, whether it's regulatory, whether it's security, whether it's commercial, and then try and set the scene for your team and for those that you serve and for those that you work with in government or whatever, to try and sort of set out a plan that will be the best response to that. And it's never perfect, because you've never got perfect information. But as long as you come at that with a data-based approach and clear objectives, being really, really open about what it is you're trying to achieve, then I think you'll get as good to the best outcome as you can.
Yeah, so just data-driven decisions taking.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the whole COVID thing, I mean, first of all, survival was the first instinct. We didn't know how long we'd have no passengers, no business, no income. So we had to first respond to that and make sure that we minimised any spend. Then, as we could see better information, we could see how travel restrictions were working. We knew that you were going to have a vaccine in place. Then it became a debate with government about how can we minimise the damage while still protecting the health. And that's a very different phase to be in, and it's a very different skill set, and it needs different data, different arguments, and of course a process that would allow proposals or better ideas to be implemented. So that was fascinating in a sort of horrible, worrying sort of way, but a really unique challenge that you look back on almost in disbelief now that it was sort of 2.5 years of almost nothing happening. But we'll come out of it pretty well.
So fast forward to 2024, Edinburgh Airport has shown impressive post-pandemic growth. So what are the key strategies, and what did you do to do such better results for Edinburgh Airport? Can you highlight some of the key strategies that you implemented?
So, I mean, the first thing was survival. We knew we had to sort of batten down the hatches, spend nothing, because we didn't know how long it was going to last. We lost £100 million over that period. So it's not an insubstantial amount of money. But then the other thing was, as we were doing that, was not to cut too much muscle. So we knew that when the recovery came, it would come back strongly. And we also knew that the people that would be so important as well as passengers for that recovery would be our airlines and our retail partners, because if you don't have a service to offer, it doesn't matter how willing your customers are to come back, there's nothing for them to buy. So we worked really hard with the airlines from day one to say, look, we understand we're all sharing this problem. How can we do commercial deals? How can we work with each other to minimise the losses? And I think that stood us in really good stead. So when the recovery did start to come back, we had great relationships. We'd invested in these relationships. We demonstrated to airlines that we could be an effective restart for them. And I think we did very well in terms of being ahead of most in terms of getting that capacity and that service back again.
That's amazing leadership, I must say. So, and as you know, that balancing growth with environmental responsibility is quite vital these days. So what sustainable initiative Edinburgh Airport is taking for its growth as well as to maintain the sustainability? Can you highlight a few of these things which Edinburgh Airport is doing?
So look, the industry as a whole, and I include the airlines as well, really understand that this is probably the most pressing issue for our sector. We need to demonstrate that we've got credible, deliverable plans that are going to get us to net zero and get there fast enough to keep up with all the expectations upon us and upon regulation and so on. So we've focused the last few years to do what we can do within the airport environment. We are already virtually net zero on Scope 1 and Scope 2. And that's all the things we control on the ground. That's how the energy we use, and it's all of the things we do in terms of having electric vehicles, in terms of just minimising waste, you name it. So we're really proud of that, but we're also conscious that we are here to enable aircraft, and aircraft are a much bigger challenge where jet technology is going to take a number of years to sort of replace. So two things is, one, we've got to demonstrate, well, three things actually. We've got to demonstrate, one, don't throw the baby out of the bathwater. This is a phenomenally important industry for economic wealth, for well-being, for global connectivity, for everything you can think of. We are a huge contributor. So if you accept that, and how do we minimise that damage? How do we accelerate the decarbonisation? And how do we do even more for others while that takes a little bit longer than perhaps other industries where the technology is more readily available? But I never want anybody to doubt our commitment to get there. We will run as hard and as fast as we can to make this work, because we know that's what we have to justify. But we also know that we are providing huge value to the whole of the country and beyond in terms of what we provide.
So that's good that you're balancing both your growth as well as the environment.
Absolutely.
So when I posted that I'm going to interview you, so there were a few questions which popped up from the people of Edinburgh, so which I wanted to throw it to you, and you can just answer those as per you. So the one thing which people were not very happy was about last year. So thousands of people were stranded without their luggage. So are we going to see the similar things again this year, this summer holidays as well? Secondly, the other thing they were mentioned about the many the British airport, the UK airport have implemented that no liquid checks. So when are we expected to see that in Edinburgh? So these are the two questions of the public.
Okay, well, that's another really good question. Trust me, every time I get the taxi, I get the same question. But so the baggage issue was caused by two things last year. One was about not having enough handling resources here for our local partners here. So that meant when people came in the aircraft, there wasn't enough people to empty the aircraft, even though the bag was with them. That was probably only about 5% of the problem, and that was pretty unusual. It tended to happen late at night. Very annoying for those that hits, don't get me wrong, I understand, but it was a really small part of the problem. The far bigger part of the problem was we were getting sent lots of passengers without their bags from other big hubs around Europe. Because they didn't make that connection in these big hubs. So that was a twofold problem. One is the passengers already lost their bag. They're already going to see a delay. It then put a huge new job on our airport because nobody was expecting thousands of bags misconnected. Typically, we would get 12 or 15 in a day. We would get 300 in a day. So we had to gear up, both our handling partners and ourselves, to gear up to make getting the bags back to people a shorter process than it being 5 or 6 days trying to get one or two. So that was a really painful process, and if you hadn't seen your bag and didn't know what it was for 4 days, I've got every sympathy for that. But we were trying to fix a problem that wasn't of our making. So what I can't say is there's no certainty we won't see the same problem from the other airports because we don't know what's we can see. I hope they've taken the last year to improve upon their capabilities, so that is much, much smaller. But the one thing I am certain of is that the handlers here and our support will be available, that if we do get short ship bags, as we call them in the industry, we will get them to people much quicker than they're used to. Now, that's still annoying if you've been with a whole night in a hotel without a bag. I get that, but I trust that we are determined that any of that delay won't be at our door and won't be caused because we're not ready for that. On the new security, really exciting. I mean, this is transformational. Everyone knows liquids at 100 mil, plastic bags, having to take them out, having to take your laptop out. It's really a pain. It's very annoying. Everyone understands why, but it's something that gets in the way of enjoying the whole experience. And of course, it takes time and money and everything to make work. So the new tech's coming. Government's asked everyone to try and do it by the 1st of June. I think most airports are going to struggle to get 100% of the way there because we've come out of a COVID where there was virtually no investment. It's brand new technology. Lots and lots of work has to be done. We're really confident that a great majority of our passengers will have that new service by the 1st of June. But there might be a little bit of time after that just to complete the whole set because we're going to replace 6 lanes and actually create 8 lanes. And what people don't talk about as often, we also have to move to 100% body scanning. So at the moment, you come through an archway and only if you alarm, you then go off to the body scan. That's going to 100% body scanning. So that's a bigger challenge for us as the liquids is. But the great news is when we're in and running, that was going to be a transformational. One bag, keep everything in. It means you're going to get through faster, you're going to get less checks. It's going to be great. So trust me, we are doing our damnedest to get that ready as fast as possible. And we'll see the first one in operation next month here in Edinburgh. We'll be working really hard to replace everything there on it.
That's a great news. So anybody listening can see that this is going to implement it very soon in June. So we're all excited about that. So Correct. The podcast we have named is as the Global Desi Podcast. So Global Desis are Indian diaspora set up all over the world. It's a growing Indian diaspora all over the world, contributing wherever they go. So there has to be a question from the Indian diaspora. So as you know, India is now standing tall as a global economic powerhouse with the fourth largest economy and a migrant middle class and booming for growth. So, and your team members, Johnny and Lindsay, are part of an advocacy group which are working through to start a direct flight between India and Scotland, probably from the Edinburgh airport. So how do you see that Edinburgh, how do you align with this vision first, and how do you say that Edinburgh can play a role in making this a success?
That's a good question. I'll start with the basics. Every route is important for us. Every new passenger, new business we're delighted to have. But of course, there are some new markets, some developing markets that are even more exciting. And they're more exciting for us because of the potential, but they're also should be more exciting for Scotland and hopefully for the Indian destinations as well. Because the opportunity to link these two economies directly, when it's not been before, the opportunity for a student to have direct service to Scottish universities or vice versa, is a really sort of gap in that market that's really exciting to try and fulfill. So the data shows us that there is already huge demand for a number of Indian destinations, and the two lead ones being Delhi and Mumbai. But others would also characterise that. So what we've got to do is take that evidence, take that data, and persuade an airline that they want to fly it, that they'll be successful doing it. So our effort is to try and align everyone in the city, try and talk to our opposite numbers in India as well, share that data, build the business case, and persuade an airline to come and fly it. And we are absolutely confident that this will be a huge success. Typically, you start maybe with a few times a week in the summer only, but you can build it. But actually, the Indian market will go really fast. When we're confident when we see one route up and running, it will be so successful that there'll be others want to follow and want to really build upon that success.
Yeah, so to start off, even if the weekend flight to as you did for Hania from India and China.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the number I've seen is Indian flyers are significantly higher than China. Still, China was able to do it. Absolutely. So I'm really looking forward for your help and support to make this a successful. And if needed, we can just fly to India and speak to Indian Airlines.
Well, I'll take all the help we can, but it's a great story to tell, and we've got the show. We've got the evidence to see how many routes can work from the data that's gone before. But where else has got that historical connection, that cultural fit, the economic growth that India's got, and the fact that we're hugely welcoming, I hope, of all Indian visitors and vice versa. Lots and lots of Scots would like to go to spend time, work or study in India.
So that's sort of my next question. I know tourism is one aspect, but there are other aspects as well, like students. There's a huge number of Indian students who study at Scottish universities. So what other benefits? For example, you are a supporter of Hidden Door initiative, which is about art and culture. So do you think there will be some cultural exchange and student exchange program? For example, I know for sure the Indian government is trying to get UK students to come and study in India as well. So how do you say, apart from tourism, what other areas, including arts, culture, and education, which can benefit both the countries?
There's no areas that won't benefit. Human connectivity is a driver of everything from innovation to art to well-being, to social connections, to sport, you name it, right? So we know as soon as we connect people better that they find new and creative ways to better themselves, better the community, better the economy. So we're confident that as soon as we make this connection, we will see more Indian students come here. We will see more UK students go to India. We know that business connections will grow because it's easier to get there. You get to know people better, you develop links, you have better customer connections, you name it. And the universities, obviously, hugely. But I would love to see just more and more of everything coming, because we know that's where the real magic comes. It's when you've got this ability to share ideas, then the real sort of magic comes from that connectivity.
Amazing. So, Gordon, is there a message or a call of action you want to give to the advocacy group and the Indian diaspora at large? It is for about the opportunities and connectivity, as you mentioned, that you believe in human connection and connecting people. So is there a message or anything you want to say to them?
I think it's talking up. Everyone knows people that are going to have an influence in this, whether it's a business connection that will be telling potentially an airline directly that they want the route, but talking to politicians, talking to people in the education industry. Effectively, if there's a growing groundswell of people demonstrating that there's an interest, that could use it, that's the most important thing, is if you can fill an aircraft up with people buying tickets, airlines will fly. It's as simple as that.
I'm sure you get filled, Gordon, because I see a lot of interest. I do a lot of community organizations, and everywhere been asked why there's not a direct airline between India and Scotland. So, guys, I'm sure that you're excited to hear the news from Gordon that he's all there to support this advocacy group, and if there's anything we can get from him, and we can make this very successful. So Gordon, we're just coming to this short and crisp interview. So before we close, there's a fun section of the interview.
Well, I find it fun.
I hope you do. So this is rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Where you get just 10 seconds to reply.
Okay.
And
what do you think?
So imagine you are on a direct flight between India and Scotland, the first flight going from Edinburgh to Delhi, Mumbai, somewhere. So have you got any special place in mind in India where you'd like to visit?
Oh, I just want to go and experience that whole sort of city feel that you see your
Have you been to India?
I've never been. No, my team have been a number of times, and I'm determined to get there this year. And just I hear so many great things about all the great iconic places, the Taj Mahal. But actually, I'm a great city lover. I love sucking up the whole atmosphere, the street food, you name it. So
Okay, so there's this Bollywood connection which connects Scotland and India. There's a lot of Indian movies shooting happen different parts of Scotland. So do you know any Indian movie or actor?
I don't, but I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment by saying I don't know too many Hollywood ones.
Right.
So it's not kind of my area. Ask my son-in-law; he'll be able to tell you all of this. But no, I'm not a big movie fan. But I know how important that is for connectivity. I know it's been phenomenal in selling what Scotland has done. Show people back in India some of the fantastic things they could come see and do in Scotland.
I can give you a few names for you next time. So Shahrukh Khan, who's wanted a doctor, a PhD from Edinburgh University, he is a very popular. And then another guy called Akshay Kumar, who did a lot of shooting in Glasgow. So these two are very popular actors.
Well, I promise when I'm on the flight over, I'll make sure I watch that on the flight.
Okay, and so coming back to your management and leadership style, so what would you like to say to somebody who is starting up a new entrepreneur or a new leadership role? What message do you want to give to? What one or two words that you want to say to them?
So the one word is be authentic, or two, that's two, isn't it? But be authentic, be true to yourself. Right? You can only lead in the way that you know. Now, you can all learn to be better, we can all learn to understand how we can get messages over, or presentation skills, but fundamentally, if you're not speaking from the heart, things you truly believe in, then it won't be authentic, and people won't get the best from you, and you won't get the best out of life. So follow your passions and be authentic.
Okay, so if someone who is watching this has never been to Scotland or Edinburgh, so is there a hidden gem or any place you're recommending them to come as a tourist?
So many. I think if you're thinking about a place to visit, I think the Mary King's Close, which is the underground streets in Edinburgh that were kind of covered up hundreds of years ago. I think that's absolutely fascinating, gives some real insight, and it's quite spooky as well, something like that. But otherwise, I think it's a great city to walk in. I live right in the city centre, and I never use the car on the weekend because it's small enough, and it's a very beautiful city to get around and feel.
Okay, so final one, what things that you do to unwind yourself, because being a CEO of such a big organization is very stressful. So is there something which you do to unwind yourself, relax your mind, and
I cycle a bit, just not big race cycling, but just for fun. I play paddle tennis, which is one of the fastest growing sports in Europe. So it's like a cross between squash, which I know is very big in India, and tennis. And I find that really nice. It tends to be played in doubles.
Okay.
So it's a really sociable game. It tends, thankfully, to be played by slightly older people, which makes me a relative youngster compared to some. And that doesn't happen very often in my life anymore. So I quite enjoy it.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you so much for your time. I hope to have this, as we said, that we hope to see a direct flight flying from Edinburgh, hopefully end of this year or beginning of next year.
I hope so too.
Thank you so much.